Okay, let's see how we go. This is just a test, and not a test. Let's start this thing up. Okay, we're back here. We're back online. This is I think it's the 9th or the 10th day of my Unscriptable challenge. I have decided to do these daily check-ins with myself, with the world, through the lens of the camera, and leveraged by the YouTube platform to kind of demystify and make it less scary, uncomfortable, or awkward for me to post my inner state, thoughts, feelings, ideas, perspectives with the world. And we're here in Thailand. Long story short, we took a trip, me and my wife and my son, Leonardo and Victoria. It's great. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful country. This is the first time we've decided to travel with the baby. He's almost 5 months, 4.5, and it's not to be the complaining type or anything like that, but there are challenges with traveling with a baby, and it has led to a lot of insights and a lot of reflections and a lot of we've learned a lot along the way so far. We've been there for 2 or 3 weeks, and I don't want to burden you with too much whining or complaining, but it has led us to think more about how this whole concept of nuclear families actually works / doesn't work, because as we are part of the Western civilization, and where we come from in Denmark, we live the traditional or conventional way of living is that we have a nuclear family, as you call it, where there is the parents, and then there's one or more children in the family living under the same roof or in the same apartment. And this is, of course, on the surface level, it sounds like this would be preferable compared to the more traditional societies of hunter-gatherers, for example, that I like to compare our lifestyle, our life situation, how we live with how humans have lived throughout history. And if you look at evolutionary history or history in general, 95% of all of human history, we lived in hunter-gatherer societies with tight bands of communities where we would be living, I think, between 30 and 60 people, something like that, in a tribe of multiple nuclear families, you could say, in a small little village scenario set up, where everybody, they took turns in sharing the load of caregiving, nursing, providing food, gathering resources, hunting hunting prey for food and stuff like that. And in this traditional setup, there was obviously also a more the roles were more delegated in terms of, like, the females would take more care of the children, and the males would be more out providing resources and hunting. So that is the biological natural state, and that's not to promote inequality or anything like that, which it probably sounds like to some people in these days. But that's just a biological factor, the biological natural state of how human societies, they worked. And it's reflected in, obviously, the female, the mothers are the only ones that's able to breastfeed. So on a biological level, there's not much to argue with there. And on the other side of the spectrum, males are much stronger, better at hunting, and better at much of the practical hands-on work than females are. That's just a fact. Nature designed us that way for a reason, and it did so to delegate responsibilities and to have each each individual had their own responsibilities and could provide in their own unique way to the group, to the tribe, to the small society, so that the shared network of responsibilities would lift up the whole tribe. Nowadays we have, after the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution, the concept of a nuclear family was introduced, and it, on the surface level again, it should be more privileged, more luxurious, that we can afford now to live in each our own house, in each our own apartment. But this has led to many unexpected problems and complications for a lot of newborn families or nuclear families with small children, and that's also one of the reasons that many people, they suffer from, they experienced postpartum, what's called afterbirth depressions, both fathers and mothers, because there's just too much load on the parents of the children. Back in those days, through most of history, the aunts, the uncles, the siblings, and the grandmothers would all help out, taking turns when the baby was crying or overtired or overstimulated. But now all of that responsibility is focused on the mother and on the father, and it's way too much for the mother, so it can be very exhausting, even as she is not oftentimes not getting enough sleep because of the breastfeeding throughout the night. And it's also not ideal to have that load on the father, because that is not, in most cases, as I experience, the natural state. That's not where I provide the value that I was designed for by nature. I was designed by nature to go out, gather fruits and hunt prey, build cabins or houses for the families. I was not designed to do caregiving and nursing for small children, up at least not until age 1, 2, or 3, in my perspective. And that's also what I've found now after some research. This creates a lot of tension on the parents, the individuals of the nuclear family. That leads to a lot of distress and depressive symptoms and malfunctioning. And it's a sad reality, and it's hard to visualize exactly how we can overcome these problems, because in an ideal scenario in the future, when we maybe are more aware of this issue, we would go back to living in a more traditional sense. Of course, we can't go back to the original traditional way of living completely, but we could learn from how those societies they worked and try to design the homes and the societies and the communities of the future inspired by them. So whether that's living together in complexes where there are multiple small units and more focus on the communal shared areas where individuals would have be cooperating more on a day-to-day cooperative practical basis with hands-on work and hands-on shared responsibilities, with taking care of the families and the responsibilities. I hope that we will come up with some setup for that as a society, and more people can live more harmonious lives with small children, because perhaps it sounds like a first world problem, and it is by definition, because here in the third world, in Thailand, I think they seems like they are living closer to the traditional way, with more focus on the shared responsibilities and the families taking care of each other, cross-generational. so they don't have these issues here yet. But it is a first world problem, but it is a problem, and it's just a fact. And we have to try to, as a collective, as a society, try to figure out how we can create setups in the future where families, they can thrive and they can enjoy the lovely and miraculous. Yeah, and my phone is running out of storage, of course, but that was the insight for today. I try to get a little bit wiser every day and try to adapt and find out what is the ideal setup, because it is beautiful. It's a magical time of our lives to have this new family, but we also have to figure out what the ideal setup is so we can enjoy it as much as possible. Let me know in the comments below if you're watching this and if you have enjoyed it so far. If you have any comments, let us know. Let me know. I'll be reading all of them. And until then, I will see you in the next one. Thanks.